Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to answer, in my web speech, I'd like to answer two questions again. The first question is, why do you have to exaggerate the certainty of global warming? And the second is, how do you deal with the consequence that you may or may not be harming science, taking into consideration that science has been harmed before? But first, I would like to say some rebuttal. We got a couple of things from closing opposition. The first was in speech as well as in the POI, and it was the question, do you believe it matters whether global warming is man-made or not, according to the measures you're going to take? Yes, we do. If global warming is in fact man-made, then we're going to start introducing measures that target that kind of climate change. And we're targeting typically here things such as pollution, etc. So yes, of course, we think it matters. We also think it matters on a global level because we believe that it institutes into people and companies the idea that to a certain extent we are responsible for our planet, that we have caused the damage to it, and that we need to fix this problem up. And we don't want these people to continue being in this bubble where they simply believe, oh, it's just our fate, it's just nature, it's going to happen sooner or later, there's nothing we can really do about it. We also buy the second point of the prisoner's dilemma, that we all kind of need to act together. What we don't buy, that's a necessary excuse for every single country to ignore the fact that climate change actually exists. We don't think that's a reason why there should be massive political capital for the fact that climate change doesn't really exist. If you want people to prioritize and be all rational and weigh up this against saving starving kids or sort of increasing the quality of life in their country, we believe you can do that, but we believe it is wrong for people to be able to deny the fact that climate change exists in general, and that's not to come into debate, etc. Secondly, we ask, is it immoral for us to inflict fear in our citizens? We think we inflict fear in our citizens all the time. The degree to which we do this simply depends on the degree to which our citizens are rational or not. We believe human beings aren't generally very rational, that citizens will sort of try their chances at gambling or sort of go through all sorts of security measures if they think there's a security threat. Another very relevant example is that on a lot of cigarette packs, it says smoking kills. There is no 100-degree of certainty that every person that smokes that cigarette is going to kill. It might scare a couple of people, but we don't really think that's harmful. We certainly don't think it's immoral. So now to my first point. Why do we have to exaggerate uncertainty? We have three reasons. We think A, because combating climate change is vitally important. We think B, because we need more rational politics. And we think C, because we need to come back into this political game that has been so skewed by people that don't believe in climate change simply because they don't want to believe in climate change. So why do we think it's so important? We think the long-term effect, the long-term reasons are obvious from all sorts of videos we see of ice bears drowning, etc. That we are ruining our planet, that we don't really think we have the moral right to do that we kind of care about future generations, and that we have this kind of sense of karma that makes us believe that we don't really need to pollute and ruin more than we should. We also think, secondly and most importantly, is the short-term effects. There's a question a good friend of mine once asked me, and he said, what if we clean up all the rivers? What if we open up all the skies? What if there are fishes in the sea, and then it should turn out that climate change was a lie? Well, then suddenly we're living in a wonderfully beautiful planet, and we're giving people the quality of life they deserve all over the world. We believe we win on this sort of even-if case, even though Desi and I certainly believe that climate change is very real. Secondly, because it's simply rational to act. I've said before that people don't often act very irrationally, that you might try your chances of gambling even though there's only a 2% chance that you might win $1 million. We think governments don't have this kind of luxury. We think even if there was only a 60 or 70% chance that climate change is killing our people now, decreasing their quality of life, and ruining the politics, we think people should take this into consideration as sort of a very real threat. We think the only reason people aren't acting rationally in the field of climate change is because it's been over-politicized. And I'd like to talk about this political process in a second. Before that, I'll take opening.
If things like failed prediction undermine the reliability of science, then people will listen to activists less. How will you save the world then?
Well, we assume oftentimes this won't come out. And secondly, I'm going to talk about that in a way we're not really talking about real scientists. In a way, the people we're going up against don't really care about science in the first place. Why is that? We say that when we talk about global warming in a lots of states, there are people that don't, I don't know, sometimes they tend to be slightly conservative, they don't believe in global warming because they don't want to believe in global warming. We then ask them, why don't you believe in global warming? And they don't give us any reasons. They then say, oh, we have these statistics and these tests and these experiments that prove it's all a lie, it's all a conspiracy, it's all completely unlikely. They then say to us, we're only going to believe in global warming, we're only going to talk to you, we're only going to debate with you, we're only going to take any measures if you give us more certainty, if you give us that 90% or more of the 90%. We believe we can now do one of two things. Either we give up the debate and say, sorry, we don't have these 90% and we cannot prove your tests because they're not real tests and not falsifiable in the first place, or we can give them to them. We think under the circumstances that we're improving the quality of life and saving the planet, this is morally correct. We see that it harms science, but we don't really think it's science in the first place. Open Government says, how can you allow opinions to change your perception of truth and science? We say it's because opinions are that which changes our perception of anything, and we don't really know what truth is. We believe the debate that's being held on climate change is not being held in sort of laboratories and only between scientists. It's very much a societal, political debate that needs to be had. And that's why we think we can abuse science in these cases. It might be a slightly lame excuse that we're sort of abusing science because everybody has done it in the right place first, done it as well before we did. But we think in the end we still win because we're doing it for the right reasons. And currently we see no other way to save the planet and act rationally. Thank you very much.